One of Labour's key pledges at the 2024 election was to make the NHS fit for the future, and one thing that is common knowledge is the antiquated nature of the NHS's data systems. However, there was not a pledge that they would fix any of these problems in a scrupulous manner, and if there's one thing you can guarantee from West Streeting is that the private sector will get a prominent seat at the table for any future NHS policy. Enter the Trump-aligned spy-tech giant Palantir. So comically untrustworthy, they named their company after the all-seeing orb owned by Lord of the Rings antagonist Saruman the White. Like, I hate tech oligarchs, but do they have to be this cringe? They'd been given a £330 million contract in 2023 to run the NHS's federated data platform, a unified database to connect patient data across trusts, ostensibly for a more seamless patient experience. Now, that's all well and good, but this is no ordinary tech company we're dealing with here. Palantir is run by Trump sycophants Peter Thiel and Alex Karp, whose approach to politics and statecraft absolutely terrifying. Thiel himself has argued that those who oppose this tech oligarchy, such as Greta Thunberg and AI skeptics, are legionnaires of the Antichrist. And here's Alex Karp talking about Palantir's role in Israel's genocide in Gaza.
A few people get wealthy, and if you said platitudes that were obviously stupid, you could... Oh.
You're killing my family in Palestine.
Yeah. And, you know...
How do you sleep at night?
Well, if you... Do you want to hear my answer?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So, I think the primary cause of death to Palestinians... Okay. Do you want to hear the answer, or do you want to yell? Well, you don't want to hear an answer? Obviously. So the primary source of death in Palestine is the fact that Hamas has realized that there are millions and millions of useful idiots that will...
This is why you don't get a platform to speak. Because you are killing my people and you're justifying it because of Hamas or anyone else.
Can we get security up there?
Your AI and your technology from Palantir kills Palestinians.
Mostly terrorists, that's true.
No.
Of course, given the Labour government's complicity in the Gaza genocide and total subservience to Trump's tech oligarchy, given the role that firms like Palantir and Oracle have in collaboration with people like the Tony Blair Institute, that's very close to Keir Starmer, such human rights and data privacy concerns over these unscrupulous corporations are of no concern for the Prime Minister. Despite the fact that just recently the Swiss government ruled out any contracts with Palantir over data security concerns. Green Party leader Zack, however, is having none of this, and he was at a demonstration outside Palantir's UK headquarters today calling for the NHS contract to be terminated.
We're outside Palantir today because this is a military surveillance technology company that specialises in artificial intelligence. And for a long time now, they've had a contract with our National Health Service. That contract is up for renewal next year, and I've just delivered a letter that is saying we are putting them on notice. Myself, the Green Party, and all the campaigners here will use every mechanism possible to say get the hell out of our National Health Service. They have no role here, and in fact Louis Mosley, who is their UK boss, is ultimately saying that we are putting ideology over health. Let's talk about the ideology he is putting there. This is an ideology that is deeply authoritarian. We have Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, who has been quite explicit that she wants to have what she called a panopticon of surveillance, and so they will play a role in that. Second, they are deeply complicit, not just complicit, active enablers of the genocide in Gaza. And finally, they are looking to work with ICE. ICE are like a paramilitary organization in the United States, demonizing and murdering people, including Renee Good, who they shot in cold blood just a couple of weeks ago. So we're here as the Green Party and as campaigners of all parties and none to ultimately say this is about making sure that Palantir has no role in the future of our National Health Service.
The comments around ICE are especially pertinent. As their campaign of terror against the US citizenry, ICE are using data procured from the US Department of Health and Human Services to hunt down targets for deportation. This is from 404 Media. Palantir is working on a tool for immigration and customs enforcement that populates a map with potential deportation targets, brings up a dossier on each person, and provides a confidence score on the person's current address, 404 Media has learned. ICE is using it to find locations where lots of people it might detain could be based. The findings, based on an internal ICE material obtained by 404 Media, public procurement records, and recent sworn testimony from an ICE official, show the clearest link yet between the technological infrastructure Palantir is building for ICE and the agency's activities on the ground. The tool receives people's addresses from the Department of Health and Human Services, among a range of other sources, according to the material. This should ring alarm bells for anyone concerned with civil liberties, and given the surveillance state Labour is building with the excuse of it being necessary to deter irregular migration, it is paramount that anything that allows people like Palantir access to our personal information must be resisted at all costs. Palantir UK and Europe boss Louis Mosley, yes, that's the grandson of Oswald Mosley by the way, was on Sky News this morning to respond to Polanski's opposition to the contract.
Clearly, some of the deals or partnerships that have been announced have divided opinion. Palantir is working with the NHS to try and improve efficiencies there. And the latest politician to come out against that has been Zack Polanski. To what extent can you understand people questioning your partnership with NHS, which has so much private information of so many individuals? And what is your response to those criticisms?
Well, the criticisms are based on a misapprehension about the nature of our technology and our business model. So the NHS controls all of the data that the NHS has. They simply use our software to process it, which means Palantir does not have access to that information. We don't monetize that information. We have no business interest in it. And so fundamentally, that criticism is not founded on any kind of truthful premise. And so that means that I frankly find it disappointing. I mean, as a Brit, I want the NHS to work. I want it to help me, my family, my friends. And when politicians take an ideological position against a technology that can help patients, by the way, we have helped over the last year 80,000 people in Britain get hospital appointments, treatments, and actually operations that they would not otherwise have got if the technology were not in place. So Zack Polanski is putting ideology over patients.
Now, if I was the grandson of Oswald Mosley, I would not turn up to every single media appearance wearing a black shirt. Maybe that's just me. As for his claims that he wants the NHS to work to help him and his family, are we seriously meant to believe that this guy waits in the queue for an NHS appointment like the rest of us? You'll have to decide for yourself whether you believe him that Palantir won't be able to access data from the new systems. But regardless of the veracity of Mosley's statements, it doesn't clean Palantir's resume of aiding a genocide. And Polanski is clear that they should not get a penny more of public money to continue, saying this in response. Murdering children is bad, Louis. Wes Streeting may have taken over £250,000 in private healthcare donations, but I haven't. So it's quite simple to tell the truth, and there's a graphic there confirming Palantir's relationship with Israel. Dahlia, how uneasy does it make you that we have people like Palantir having these kind of contracts with the NHS?
I mean, it makes me incredibly concerned. There's been a lot of conversation around data sovereignty and, data security and how important that is when it comes to our freedom and democracy and curbing the tide of authoritarianism. That conversation was really alive in a quite good way around the digital ID system, because the digital ID cards are sort of a very explicit way in which people feel like this kind of there will be this corporate state alliance to track and surveil everyday people in their everyday lives. And when people feel that is what's happening, they are overwhelmingly against it. Now, digital ID cards are a concern, and I certainly am against them, but it's actually these kind of backdoor ways in which data authoritarianism emerges. It's through having data on every single person, because every single one of us use the NHS, like every single one of us, unless, of course, you are undocumented or you have irregular papers, thanks to the hostile environment. But so many of us use the NHS. It is one of the most, it's like turning a tap and giving access to one of the most brutal, immoral companies in the world, and just giving them access to not only the data that might be collected from us when we shop online or whatever, but data like biometric health data. And the idea that a company that runs the software that the NHS uses, a company as unscrupulous as Palantir, the idea that they would not at some point gain ownership or access over that data is absolutely laughable.